Sandringham. And in fact, they registered this airplane. It's registered as a Sandringham.
Okay.
But the FAA wouldn't recognize it as a type certificated airplane, so they wouldn't give him a Part 135 certificate. So he couldn't operate it. So it kind of just sat for a while until Charlie was killed in the Goose accident, and then the whole estate was sold.
Okay.
And the airplane wound up in the hands of this Edward Holton in England.
Yes,
and
yes.
he took it over there, and he was just kind of a playboy. He didn't have any interest in flying the airplane himself. He hired a crew, and he just kind of rode around on it. It was just kind of a cool, fancy Winnebago. You know, he was going to go out and play with it. And he wound up spending a fortune on it.
Yeah.
And it was
I have that
damaged.
video that was made on its repair there.
Oh,
and
when it was damaged after the hurricane that went through.
It broke one of the wingtips off.
Right.
Didn't it?
Yeah.
And did it
Tore
damage that casting at the tail?
Damaged the tail casting because it knocked the airplane off the tail trolley, damaged the tail post. Got to fabricate that. It knocked the float off, and it really buggered it up.
And what about spares? How have you guys?
Actually, we just got a load from Australia. We got several fuel tanks, another float, horizontal, vertical fin. I think we got a rudder in there. We got quite a bit. There's some. I think there's an aileron in it.
I noticed in the store of our one that we have some things. You know, I'm fairly low in the pecking order, but if we could ever help, you've got my card. You know, I would have to go to you a lot higher than I am. You know, I'm the vice president of this little association of about 15 or 20 people who have committed ourselves to tidy it up.
Yeah.
So, what goes on from there is, of course, somebody else's decision. But I was by the aviation director when I said I was coming here. I'll find out what sort of spares that you have available. And I would imagine that lots of the stuff you'd have to make, wouldn't you? Which is pretty straightforward.
The extractor, I've changed the extractor, and it always creeps. Of all of them that give us trouble, it's always number 4, and it always has. And
these exactors are like a transmitter and a receiver.
Yeah.
So the transmitters is the throttle, and the receiver's actually at the carburetor, and there's a very small copper pipe from one end to the other.
Yeah, and just a series of seals. We've switched everything over to our straight 5606 hydraulic fluid, and it seems to work a little better, but I still have a leak in it.
Yes, of course, I've still got the there. With the cutout for taking an engine, which really had to.
That was kind of interesting to see that the way
we only ever did it once, and that was when this ship was wrecked on the Chathams.
Really?
We brought the engines back. It was the only time I'd ever seen it unbolted.
Really?
Because we didn't have any cause.
Yeah.
I've been bombing in them, you know. I fired the .5 with an old ship we were sinking, and it was just lucky. I was really lucky. Can I come flying with you guys? Yeah, sure. And they were using depth charges to get rid of them, and it was just a wooden hulk. And I had a squirt with a .5 at them. But the other Sunderland had sank it too soon. It just got almost a direct hit with this, because they were 500-pound depth. I can't even see where the tracks are.
No, there is a track. Yeah. Is that what the fuel?
The fuel pumps in the bomb bay here. There was a big pipe, probably about that round. It came down like that, and then it curved like that, and had a big handle on it. It was sticking out about that far with probably about a 5/8 shaft. And when it came time to dump the fuel, they actually pushed the handle down, which extracted a piece of pipe about that far.
The gator?
And it had a...
What's the matter?
And so this pipe had a hole front and back and at the bottom, so that the vacuum of the air would get the fuel out in a hurry. But that's where it came out.
There's one of those on each side. Hey.
What are the guys doing? Are you talking to them?
I guess they're working on the B-24.
I mean, when are they all leaving?
Paul will be here till next Thursday. Ken is gone this weekend. Top-mounted air intake. For the carb air. Everything was done to get more air in the engine to cool it because they were so much trouble to keep cool.
It's funny, we use them in Fiji. We had more of these things always at one time in Fiji than we would have at Hobsonville. We probably had four on the water at most times at Hobsonville, and they would have had 5 or 6 in Fiji all the time.
Yeah. That's neat.
For any major servicing, they would bring them back to us.
Yeah.
And in those days, Air New Zealand did a major on them. They would be flown down or taxied down to Mechanics Bay.
But you never knew of any heat problems or anything with them? Because that's been their complaint. That was the complaint. I've got some of the manuals from ANZAF, and that was, always the ongoing problem was heat, trying to keep the engines cool because they did run so hot. Now maybe it was because they were running higher power settings or for whatever reason. They were always operating them at near gross weight, and of course we're not operating them anywhere near gross weight now. And we left Iceland at we thought we were about 59,000, and it turns out after we got to Oshkosh and we picked it out of the water with a crane, the fellow lifting it had a load sensor on his crane, and he said what we had thought we were figuring we were right around 46,000, and we were at 50,000, so we were almost a little over 3,000 pounds heavier than we thought.
So that sort of run, how much gas did you put on it?
Everything full.
Okay.
Yeah, we filled the rear, the F-spar tanks, the 2 F-spar tanks, and
would that be about 2,500?
25. It was like 2552 Imperial, so around 3,000 US. But now we fly. Well, we did this last trip. I went out of. We have another lake just a mile away, and we took it set it in that lake and did our fueling. We put I put 1,600 gallons Imperial on it there, and did our little trip with that, and come back into here, and I think I've got like 830 on it right now.
How do you refuel it? Difficultly.
This actually the whole trip coming over, and even when we were in Oshkosh, went very smooth. I mean, I was able to get the airplane close enough to shore that we could get a truck with a hose on it, and I fueled right out of the truck.
Okay.
The English were completely against that. They wanted nothing to do with that. Their idea to refuel the airplane was to leave it parked on a buoy and barge drums out to it.
I've done that in the islands.
Well, we did it here.
With a wobble pump.
Well, we have a pump. Actually, I've got 2 pumps. I've got one that's hooked right on our tanker truck that runs off at 12 volts, and I have a pump that you just stick down inside a 55-gallon drum that we hook to the aircraft. That's 24 volts, and it'll pump. But it just takes so long. I mean, we put about 1,000 gallons on, I guess, on the Wednesday before we left, and it took us about 8 hours.
Yes. We used to have a few refueling barges, of course, that was a big steel barge full of gas. That was its job. It had a hole in the deck for the guy to drive it, and then he would just unreel, and probably more up the front of it, and they would just run the fuel lines up.
Yeah.
Because, of course, in those days, we would use them.
Yeah,
every day.
That's the way to do it. So when we came across, they told us that before. I went over originally to England to work on the airplane for about 2 weeks in May, kind of just get the feel for the airplane, see what kind of shape it's in, and they needed some help getting the airplane done. And after we got over there and worked on it, we realized that there's no way. There was 2 guys over there, 2 English guys working on it, and there was no way at the pace they were going that they could finish the airplane. So then we went back a couple weeks later. Kermit, myself, and Russ, our flight engineer, went back to England, and we spent about another 4 to 5 weeks over there, just working. And the whole time we were there, they're telling us you've got to allow time for your refueling. It's going to take 2 days to fuel. 2 days. You're going to have to spend 2 days. Why? Well, you have to you're going to stick 55-gallon drums, and all I had this little 15-foot fiberglass boat, and they're going to put two 55-gallon drums and haul it almost from here across the lake to where the boat was moored from the slipway. And I think, there is no way. I mean, we're sitting here, the airplane is on the shore at the oldest seaplane base in England, and there's a long pier that's built heavy enough that you could drive a truck right out on it. And, we can get the boat right to it. We sat down and talked it over, and I got with a towboat captain out there that had a great big boat that he uses for pushing barges and towing stuff. I said, can you get an anchor? If you can get an anchor set out, within 200 feet of this pier that I can hook the boat to, I'll let the boat luff into the wind, anchor it again off the tail to keep it there, and we'll haul a hose out to it if we can get enough hose. Because they said, that's no problem. We can get you all the hose you want. Well, then bring the truck in, we'll hook the hose to it, and let's pump it forward.
Where was this?
In England, right at Calshot.
Yeah.
Right at the original base.
Calshot was one of England's... Calshot and Mountbatten were the two in England, and there was Lochern and some of these were made in Windermere.
Right.
In the Lakes District.
Yeah. And I fueled it. We spent more time fixing leaks in the hose than we did actually fueling. I fueled the airplane in probably 4 hours. And then we got to Ireland. We did the same thing. We landed in Loch Derg at Ireland, just northwest of Shannon. And the airplane had been there before. They had used the...
Yes, Ryanair bought it, didn't he? But the deal fell through.
The deal fell through. Well, they were going to operate as Ryanair.
Yeah.
And they had gone there then, and Charlie had stopped in there on the way over with the airplane, so that they were familiar with it. And the fellow that had the little marina there, he knew the airplane. And they did the same thing there. They parked the airplane out in the middle of the canal or the channel, and
Can I borrow your Suburban?
Huh?
Can I borrow your Suburban?
Sure.
Go to the trailer.
Yeah.
Got a call. Got people room connection.
Okay. And they just left the airplane out in the channel, and they barged fuel back and forth. I said, why? I mean, you've got this pier here. There's this place. There's no wind. There's no current. I mean, we've got nothing to fight with. And I said, we'll take it. We'll pick a late in the evening. If we get a fuel truck in here, because Ireland stays light till 10 o'clock at night. And I said, we'll get a fuel truck in here 7, 8 o'clock in the evening when it's real quiet and nobody around. Just pull the airplane in and we'll fuel it. September '94, we flew into here, and we pulled it out of the water June of last year. It never flew. It just sat in the water because we were waiting for the ramp. And we pulled it out of the water and put it in the hangar just before I left for Oshkosh. So the airplane didn't fly all that year, and it hadn't flown again until about the 30th.
And you're flying it on Friday, and I won't be here.
Yeah.
Oh.
But it's and that again, that's a maybe. I still don't know for sure. There's a lot of ifs. Say when? He said, well, they're pulling the rest of the steel off the airplanes today, and he said by Monday they'll be ready to start taking airplanes apart and moving airplanes. They said if you can go, they could use you. And I'm there. So I said, hey, I'm going down to Miami to help clean up on the hurricane. Actually stop right about here.
Oh, okay.
Rather than go out from here.
Yeah, there used to be half-round containers here. Because the drugs that we had were canvas, and they folded down.
There's one right here. In fact, let's see if it's one of the originals. I just had it repaired here, and he just patched it up real quick for a spare. So I've got.
They had our original ones had. And just past here, there used to be the steps.
Forward of the door.
Oh,
between the.
Right. Would you believe that I'm my garage door at home is still driven with a flat motor gearbox. I put a 230 volt electric motor on it, and yeah, and a Sunderland flat motor.
It works good.
Was it always like this, or was this something Ansett did?
This is what Ansett did.
Oh, Ansett did all of this.
This?
Yeah.
Gosh, all we had for seats were some bunks that were about 6 foot long. They had aluminium frames and canvas.
Yeah.
We either sat on them or lay on them.
Yeah.
God, I've forgotten about those limit switches. Totally forgotten about.
On the port wing, that we can actually get out in the wing,
Right.
just behind the regular.
Yes, this is original. Oh, your ground flight switch is here. But that used to be just there, just in front of where you put the rake in.
Really?
The control lock here. So that was there, and the signaller sat here, and the navigator there.
Right.
The
Yeah.
radar operator
Somebody
there.
sat on our table. My guys are making me a new table.
A relatively dark area, although
Yeah.
there's still the old Type C light here,
Yeah.
and these Equipoise lights, they haven't changed at
No.
all. And the gill controls haven't changed, have they?
No, it's still there. Here's the ones for the other side.
No. But yeah, there was all this radar gear that fitted here and went back quite a way, so we didn't have an awful lot of room.
Yeah.
And I guess this is the starting relays here, is it? And,
Yeah.
And further,
Yeah, it's all
and of course your
solenoid
regulators. So,
regulators.
they used to be, the regulators used to be up here, with the voltage control panel, and the starting for the APU was here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that's what went in here.
Yeah. See, that's
105 was the first ones were 4101 to 4104,
yeah.
and they fairly quickly went to a pseudo, so that it was more to fly spoons, and at that stage it was the tail end of the war. Because I used to go to school across Auckland Harbour, and Teal were flying Solents and quite prepared to, even for a ride, to keep it tidy. And it takes the